Taking this time to.
Fine. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have the roll call, please?
Director Twady. Here. Director McMillan. Here. Director Pacala.
Yes.
Director Robert.
Here.
Director Avila.
Okay, we have a quorum. And we do have members of the public in attendance and online. So this portion of the agenda may be utilized by any member of the public to address the board of directors on any matter within the jurisdiction of the board that does not appear on the agenda and on matters that are on the agenda but are not designated as action items. Depending on the subject matter, the board of directors may be unable to respond at this time or until a specific topic is placed on the agenda at a future Calleguas board meeting. In accordance with the Ralph M. Brown Act, please limit remarks to 3 minutes. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand on Zoom or in person. I see no raised hands. Online or in person. Next up, do we have items to be added to the agenda?
No items.
No items. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? Any discussion regarding the agenda?
Yes, Mr. President, I have questions on item B, payment register. Item C, budget increase or consultant contract. Let's see,
Or lean
those two items.
those 2 items?
It's on the E.
E? All right. All right, moving on to presentations. No need for presentations today.
Tonight.
Up next, we have the consent calendar and we'll kick it right off with the payment register. Item B. Director Pacala, would you like to go first?
I do, I have 6 questions, so I would wait for other members. Go first.
Okay. We have.
If you want me to start, I will.
Yeah, I have to pull mine up. So go ahead, Director Pacala.
Go first.
All right, I found mine. Since Director Pacala, I'll go first. HDR Engineering, the desalter optimization study for 61,000. I'm just wondering what the total amount has come out to for that desalter study. What have we spent to
What have
date?
we spent to date? That you will have to give me a moment to look up because I don't know the number offhand, but I can find it relatively quickly.
Okay. We can come back to that. That was my only question.
Thank you. On page 6, item. On page 6, there's a payment of $118,981 to LAFCO for fiscal year 26-27 annual permit. I know, I understand this is a charge that comes from LAFCO to special districts, including Calleguas. I do understand this is also under the state law, they distribute their annual budgets. Just as a background, the LAFCO, more than 20 years ago, they used to have 1/2 of a person for their staff. And that person was working from county CEO's office. After a couple of years, I remember that person came out of the CEO's office and they had 1 FTE. And that 1 FTE was working on LAFCO and another city, League of Cities. There's another organization, all the city mayors meet. After that, then LAFCO law was changed and they were required to do a 5-year review of all the special districts. At that time, I clearly remember the staff went and said, we need at least 1 more person. There were 2 people at that time. I don't think we have much leverage in reduce our costs with LAFCO under the state law and the way they are distributed. However, my questions to LAFCO Commission would be, what can they do to reduce costs on an annual basis? Last time, I believe our president reported to us, it is a 4% increase last year. And my question is there any efficiencies that could be achieved? Can they contract out one of the person? In the past, they did that. The way I see LAFCO doesn't meet as frequently as other agencies meet. Sometimes, most of the time, they cancel their meetings. Their workload is not dependent on what they do, what others do. I understand unpredictability. So anyway, those are the questions. I hope our representative in LAFCO will carry this message to LAFCO.
I will carry your message back. I bring this up every year. It's a little unfair on how we are billed for LAFCO. Unfortunately, the way that works is, it's based off of your income. So for us to change that, all the special districts would have to agree to change the way that is paid out to LAFCO, and they would all have to agree to pay a little more to make up the difference for we're not paying. And that's what I've been told when we bring it up, because I bring it up every year, and I don't think the special districts will ever agree to that.
I agree with 100%. That's a challenge. Nobody wants to pay more than what they're paying. They want to pay less,
Yeah.
we are saying, right?
Yeah.
But my questions are, what can they do to improve efficiencies and reduce costs?
Okay.
Does it have to be 4%? What is a 4%? I mean, I'm sure you guys have gone through all this, but those are my questions.
All right. I'll take your question back, Director Pacala.
I also have an answer to your question now
Okay.
on the HDR. So the HDR contract, we've paid $114,000 and change of the total $825,000 contract to date.
How much?
114,000. I can give you all the down to the penny, but I figured you weren't looking for that.
Just wanted an estimate.
Yep.
Thank you.
114.
All right, Director Pacala.
Okay, going on. The next question I have is on page 8 and 9. I guess this, I'm not sure who takes this. This is about a payment of $2,617 for GI Industries for waste disposal services. Is that Omar?
Yes.
Thought so.
Omar or Matt. I'll let them decide between the two of them.
All these services provided under an agreement, either with the city or the county. How are these services provided to us?
So the services are provided directly from Waste Management, not part of city or county. We haven't gone out and looked at EJ Harrison or anything like that, but these are, our local.
Right. What my understanding, by the way, I used to manage all of the county wastewater agreements. I understand how the agreements work. My question to you is, you said city, right? City of Thousand Oaks has agreement with GI/Waste Management.
The city does not have an agreement with JI.
Either then county, they have to operate under some agreements.
They will operate under a contractual agreement with whatever vendor they use.
Okay, so that means we have an option of going to others, correct?
I'd have to look into that because I know that there's certain jurisdictional boundaries that they will not cross over. Sometimes for commercial they do, but we can look into that.
Yeah.
We have a tricky situation here where this property is part city of Thousand Oaks, part unincorporated county.
So we can decide.
I don't know exactly.
House trash came from the other side of that.
County gives you options. You can choose anywhere you want. They have the agreements with. That's all I wanted to point out to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Omar.
Next item on page 10 lists 2 payments totaling $5,565 to NVS Incorporated for construction material testing at the Lindero Pump Station. Oh, engineer. What testing services done under this contract? Are there any other companies in the county that offer these type of services? If so, should we consider them for the next fiscal year?
Yes, thank you, Director Pacala. So NV5 is doing materials testing at Lindero Pump Station. I believe right now they're doing compaction testing for some of the trenching that we've been doing for the new SE service that's coming into the pump station. And they'll be providing other services as the project continues. Yes, there are other material testing facility companies here in the county that we can certainly use. NV5 just has been very responsive to us. On the day of or an hour before we need them on an emergency, they have been very responsive.
Yeah.
So we certainly have some benefits and a relationship built, but we can certainly look at other companies. Food Girl was another company that we used to use, but they no longer provide that service. Other companies may not be as robust in the services that they provide. Some of the labs don't do all the things that we need them to do.
Right.
So NV5 does provide everything we need and then more.
Yeah.
We recently actually also asked them for support on things that we typically don't ask on, I think like on plumbing or I'm trying to think of the other HVAC inspection support. So NV5 just has a lot of resources available to us.
Yeah. Well, what my experience was when we did this contract, testing purposes, we had used somebody just for a concrete strength test. So somebody else because they only have specialized, they give you good service, that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to see where we could save money, that's all.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Next on same page 10, $22,498 payments to One Water Econ LLC for SMP analysis. This is for general manager. When does the staff plan to bring these issues to the board for discussion and direction? SMP.
It'll be several months. We had a meeting on Monday with Amgen and the city of Thousand Oaks and the JPA. And there was a very robust discussion about the approach. So there's more work needs to be done. So I suspect it'll be several months before we'll be ready to bring something to the board.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And what was our position there? What did we discuss?
We discussed what we were verifying, whether we had accurately characterized that. What Amgen's planning to do is kind of complicated because it's multiple streams
Yeah.
that are handled a certain way now and would be handled a certain way in the future. So we were walking through all of that and discussing what made sense in terms of a baseline, what are the existing conditions, what are the potential future scenarios, depending on what actions happen.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next item I have is on page 18, $6,359 payment to FAMCon Pipe and Supply for fire hydrants. Omar, I guess. At the Granson Pump Station. Typically, fire hydrants have long life. I'm just curious, did we replace them because they were not functioning well or they got damaged?
Yeah, so under code, those hydrants have to be industrial hydrants with the number and size of outlets. The hydrants that were there were residential hydrants, so you wouldn't get the flow, so we just switched those out.
Oh,
And then we can use the ones that we pulled out in other areas.
okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Right.
The last one I have is on page 22, because this is also to the general manager. It lists two payments for totaling $44,184 for 14 golf carts. Given that we already have several golf carts, why are 14 additional carts needed? And what will happen to the existing carts?
So to clarify, it's not 14 carts. It's
It's eight
one,
plus six.
one 8-seater cart, one 6-seater cart.
Oh, it's
So
only two.
it's two carts that hold more people than the ones we've had before. I'll have Omar speak to why the ones we already had needed to be replaced.
I thought it was 6 and 8. I said,
No. It's just, it's an 8-seater and a 6-seater, which is frankly works a lot better for tours.
Yes. So the golf carts that we had that now went to auction, they're no longer supported. So they needed some work. They needed some front end work on those as well. And the new golf carts that we have, we ended up with more seating. And groups really don't have to be broken up. So it made more sense to get the larger golf carts instead of multiple golf carts and needing multiple drivers.
And a much safer golf cart.
yeah, no, I support what you're doing. I misread it.
We do not have a fleet of golf carts. I don't golf.
Because
There's a golf cart for each manager.
Yeah.
Back and forth from their vehicle.
okay, thank you. That completes my questions, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, everyone. All right, up next, we have item C. Director Bacali, you had a question on item C?
Okay, this is for our engineer. This item proposes increasing the consultant services agreements budget by $347,000. So 35% of the original contract. It's big to significant, according to the report, significantly expand the scope of work and to prepare a new NEPA document required for the EPA grant. Why was this expanded scope not included before staff entered into an original consultant contract agreement?
Yes, the project design for this project started several years ago, I would say 4 years ago. And at that time, we had not envisioned applying for the earmark grant that we were awarded. We got the great news, a big check outside this room to show that we got $1 million+ in that federal grant. And now
I
that,
have a question about the grant, but let's talk about the engineering aspect of it.
yes, so specifically the NEPA part. The NEPA part is required under the federal.
Understand that.
Yes, so that's why we did not envision having to do that part as part of the project when we first kicked off the design. Now that we are applying for this grant funding, we do have to go through the NEPA process.
So all of this change in scope is related to the grant?
No,
Oh, no,
That's what,
that's specific.
no, it's a portion of it.
that's what exactly I'm trying to point out.
Yes. The other things that are not part of that is the replacement of a 24-inch ball valve. That was something that we determined a couple months ago. We had the state, the Division of Safety of Dams come and do their annual inspection. And it's my understanding that before those annual inspections included cracking open that valve and then closing it right away. The new inspector is requiring us to fully open that valve. And that valve isn't regularly exercised up until last year. And we have concerns. It's the original valve from the construction of the plant the reservoir, 1962, 1963. Since we are shutting down that pipeline as part of the Lake Bar Pump Station project, we found it reasonable to replace that valve as part of this project. And that's why we're incorporating this work into this project.
So what I'm understanding is this additional work is because of the changes that are needed. You did not know when you entered into the contract.
Did
It
not.
was
Yes,
something
it-
that was brought to your attention after.
The memo enumerates 6 different changes that are associated with the scope of work. 3 of them are related to the federal funding, and then 3 are related to changes in the design that we became aware were necessary once we were already in design on the project.
Okay. But I do have a question about the grant funding though. Calleguas has a strong record of securing state and federal grants. You guys do a good job of getting these grants, including EPA grant funding. So, and our consultant is very, very familiar with this type of grants, right? So why wouldn't we include grant requirements knowing based on what we know when we entered into a consultant contract, when we enter the contract, not when we get the gun?
We did not anticipate when we started this work that we would be pursuing federal funds. That was not discussed at the time. Pursuing earmarks is something that was not, firstly, earmarks weren't existent at that time. Earmarks had gone away completely. Earmarks weren't even available.
Okay.
So the combination of the return of the earmark plus the addition of our external affairs team that can work with our local congressional representative in order to make that funding available came about later. It was something that was not known at the time that the project design scope was initially entered into.
Yeah. Earmarks makes sense to me because you didn't even know that you would be qualifying for those. What my thought process was, if we have the grants, should we include potential grants when we enter the contracts as a Schedule A, Schedule B, for example?
I think that's because it wouldn't always come into play. I think you'd then be expending effort to develop a scope and authorizing potential budget that you wouldn't therefore need. So it is better to amend the scope later once the money is received, so that you're only spending that additional money and only even developing a scope for it if the work's actually necessary.
One of the issue for me would be any delay is going to cost more and more, right?
Well, we're not delaying anything.
But we have to extend the contract, I'm sure.
Well, in order to get the money, yes, we've had to wait for EPA's actions to come through, but that's $1 million in funding, so we could have proceeded without the funding sooner.
I'm not suggesting we pursue the funding, I'm just suggesting the way we can do it differently in the future, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. Okay, looking for, if we have additional questions on the consent calendar, Director McMillan, Director Robert, Swady.
On the consent calendar, you're saying?
Yeah, items in the consent calendar.
I was just wondering if there was going to be a quarterly investment report?
Not this time.
Okay. Okay, so I just had one question and that would be the or Dan.
You can ask me the question and I can definitely find out the answer for you if I do not know it off the top.
That's a general market concern is that is there a significant capital support to the tech stocks currently? Is it still happening?
I will have to get back to you on that. That's a more question than I am capable of answering.
That's all. Thank you.
So could you repeat that question one more time so I can?
It's just that there's a capital support, a lot of venture capitalist money in the AI area. And it's supporting some of the levels of the tech stocks.
And you want to know if that's
Still going in.
okay. And I will definitely have Chandler Investments out for the next quarterly, which is going to be coming up pretty soon, actually, in October.
Like the report, by the way, you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Director Chapoidi. Okay, I'm looking for a motion on the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
First, second, roll call, please.
Director Quading?
Aye.
Director McMillan?
Yes.
Director
Yes.
Director Robert?
Yes.
Director View?
Yes. Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Up next, we have action items. First up is discussion regarding nomination for Ventura Local Agency Formation Commission, LAFCO, as a special district's regular member and special district's alternate member.
Well, President Avila is currently one of the special districts representative on LAFCO's commission. His term expires at the end of this year, as does the term of the alternate member, Mohammed Hassan from United. So our board has the opportunity to nominate someone or several or someones for the member and or the alternate position, if including a member of our board, if they are interested, or a member of another board.
Mr. President, would you like to?
I would like to stay on LAFCO. I've enjoyed my time there. Director Mohammed Hassan has been a great supporter in terms of showing up to every meeting, even when I'm there, asking all the right questions, and also stepping in when I'm not there. So I would like if the board would have me and nominate me. It would be an honor.
Well, you're doing a great job for us. I'd like to nominate you and Mohammed Hassan as alternate.
Thank you.
Second.
I would like to see your association continue as well, because you are the Aqua Chair of local government. So I'd like to see you stay informed and be on top of that. So
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
I was gonna say some nice words, but they've already been said.
There is nothing else nice to be said.
You've done a great job since being nominated for it last time, and you've taken it seriously, which LAFCO is a serious thing, but you really engage with a personal interest. So I think you've done a great job, and I support your nation as well as Hassan.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Okay, do we have a motion?
We did. Oh.
I made a motion, right?
Well, I seconded. Seconded.
Second, roll call, please.
Director Quading?
Aye.
Director McMillan? Yes. Director Papala?
Yes.
Director Robert?
Yes.
Director Avila?
Okay, the motion carries aye. Thank you.
So just to clarify, that is both to nominate Director Avila as the member and then Director Hassan from United as an alternate. So we'll just need to break that out into two resolutions, which we will get through the process.
Thank you. Yep, next we have reports. First up is Calleguas Creek Watershed Total Maximum Daily Load Update. Ashley Desai, President Larry Walker and Associates.
Yeah, I'm happy to welcome Ashley Desai, who's the president of Larry Walker Associates, who's been involved in Calleguas Creek, total maximum daily load work since inception, which is, I don't know, 25 years, maybe longer.
Oh, you're celebrating 30 years this year,
30 years, 30 years.
1996.
And so this presentation is provided at the request of Director Pacala. And Ashley is definitely the person most knowledgeable about all the ins and outs of these TMDL. So thank you for being with us here today.
Actually, I just want to say welcome.
I know.
See you after long.
I know, I'm excited to see you.
How is Larry doing?
He's doing great.
Good.
He's doing lovely. Yeah, great in retirement. Yeah, so thank you for having me. I'm very excited to talk to you today about total maximum daily loads. I recognize this is probably not a topic that you guys know a whole lot about, so feel free. I'm trying to keep it at a very high level, very connected to what you guys do, but feel free to ask me any questions as we go through this. So I'm going to start by talking about explaining what a TMDL is. And why we're talking about them. And then give you a little bit more context about the Calleguas Creek stakeholder group in general and their relationship to the TMDLs, what's been accomplished. As we said, we've been working on this for 30 years now. And end by talking about the salts TMDL, because that is probably the one that might have the most direct relationship to things that you guys do. And it's also the biggest remaining challenge in the watershed. So what is a total maximum daily load? The way that I like to, it is a requirement of the Clean Water Act. And the way I like to describe it to people is that there is water quality objectives that have to be met in the stream. And a TMDL is basically dividing up the pie. So that's a circle on there between all the different dischargers to tell them how much they're allowed to discharge into the stream and still meet that objective. So it looks at a wastewater discharger, it looks at the agricultural dischargers. It includes what happens when it rains and it runs off, from the city. So the stormwater discharges, and it also considers if there's a natural source of that pollutant. And you basically go through this whole calculation process, end up with this division of the pie, and each slice of the pie is the allocation that that individual discharger gets. A TMDL is a planning document. It's an analysis. It doesn't tell people what they have to do. The Regional Water Quality Control Board takes that allocation, turns it into a permit limit, and tells everybody what they need to do to meet that TMDL requirement. An allocation can be a load or a concentration. So some of the TMDLs we'll talk about are a load reduction. Some are just meet the concentration or the water quality objective in the stream. So why are we talking about this? Basically, what has ended up happening since all of these TMDLs were adopted is that the TMDLs really become the priorities for all the different dischargers. They're the things that have the most stringent requirements. They have deadlines by which they have to meet. So they really end up driving the actions that they're taking because they have to meet those quicker than something that doesn't have a TMDL. They're also typically very hard to meet, particularly salts. And so they encourage agencies to stop discharging water to the stream, right? If you don't put water in, you're not exceeding the objective. So it's much easier to just stop discharging than it is to try to treat in a lot of cases to meet these numbers. And so as a result, these TMDLs have ended up impacting the amount of water in the stream and water available for groundwater recharge. I think the other thing is that there is what's happening a lot more now, and as a result of the way that the TMDLs have been put into the permits, is that there are opportunities for looking at things on a little bit more of a watershed scale. So there might be places where there is a nexus between things you might be considering, such as desalters, for water supply purposes and some of these TMDL requirements. So understanding what the obligations are for these other dischargers can give you an opportunity to see if there is any nexus and room for collaboration. And that was really, I would say, one of the primary drivers that when it was actually Calleguas that set up the Calleguas stakeholder group 30 years ago. And the purpose then at the beginning was to do this comprehensive planning process to kind of think about how we can manage the future demands of water on this, in the watershed, in collaboration with protecting and enhancing the water resources, improving water quality, biological resources, cultural resources. So it had a pretty big scope. And so the first, about 4 or 5 years of of this group was really focused on this bigger watershed planning effort. Then TMDLs kind of hit. And it was this huge driver because there was a lawsuit and they had to write all these TMDLs in 13 years. And for whatever reason, Calleguas was picked as the first TMDL to be written. And it was not great. You'd say it was really bad, and was potentially going to drive massive amounts of costs for the stakeholder group. So they said, we don't want to let the regional board do this. We're going to fund and we're going to develop these on our own. So then the next 6 years was kind of the stakeholder group developing these TMDLs. And then basically since about 2006, so past 20 years, they've been implementing these TMDLs, and we literally just passed the final deadline in March of this year for the TMDLs that were written. So they had anywhere from a 5 to a 20-year time schedule. I think, there was this ambitious goal at the beginning of this process, and a lot of the stuff that, was developed has helped inform how we've approached the TMDL implementation. But I think the biggest thing that happened was this last bullet, which was encouraging the stakeholders to get involved and provide a permanent forum for cooperative decision-making. And that has really persisted through this whole process. Where we are now is, we're past all these TMDL deadlines. So now we're doing some studies to revise the TMDLs based off things we've learned from implementation. So this is just, I won't get into all of the details, but I think the main message here is look at all the green. Like, we've been pretty successful at meeting these TMDL limits. Everywhere where it's green, we're meeting the limits most of the time in the streams. Where it's red, we have a lot of work to do, and yellow is, about 50% of the time or less, we're meeting the limits. And so you can see the upper watershed's looking really good, particularly Arroyo Simi. Conejo Creek's looking pretty good. Revlon Slough is a big problem. It's mainly agricultural issues. And the place where you see kind of red and yellow across the board is Salt.
Yeah, I was going to, that's the main reason I wanted to.
Yeah.
Be all with the, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're going to talk more about that. I will say that most of this has been achieved, as I noted before, through reducing the amount of discharge to the stream. A lot of that came from water conservation. There's been a lot of work on reducing the sources of pollutants. And then there's been some treatment built. Big one, the nutrients look really good because all the wastewater treatment plants put in nutrient treatment. But there's been some other stormwater treatment. So it's been a combination, but I would say most of it is this water reducing the discharges to the stream. So that has been successful for a lot of pollutants, has not worked for salts. And there's a variety of reasons why. So just to give you a big picture context of the salts TMDL, the only treatment for salts is reverse osmosis membrane treatment. It's very costly, right? So when we were writing these salts TMDLs, if any of you remember it, Richard Hages had this idea that, if we had a salt balance, maybe we would be able to meet the objective. So if we basically got enough salts out of the watershed to equate what we were bringing into the watershed through the water supply, then salts wouldn't build up in our groundwater, they wouldn't build up in the land, and it would make it so that we could meet those objectives. So that was kind of the premise of the TMDL. And so the salinity management pipeline became a critical part of that because there's no other way to get the salts out of this watershed. You don't have a pipeline to transport it out, right? So this would be, and then that would allow us to build desalters, which would help us export salts out. So it was, let's look at this TMDL from a bigger picture perspective so that we can manage the water. The other part of this was that the wastewater treatment plants were kind of put on the hook to export a minimum load out of the watershed to contribute to this salt balance in exchange for not having to treat their discharges to a lower. They also, there's this very interesting provision that was supposed to help us with droughts, where if incoming water supply concentrations are above 80 milligrams per liter of chloride, and they might drive the wastewater limits higher, then the wastewater treatment plants could export more salts out of the watershed, basically, so that we had more salts leaving the watershed than were coming in. And then they could get higher permit limits so that they wouldn't have to treat their limits. So it's this unique part of the salts TMDL. So that's all great. Conceptually, it was great. Hasn't really played out super well in some ways, right? One of the biggest reasons is, as I mentioned before, source control is one of the main ways we did this. Can't really deal with salt sources coming in the water supply. We also have natural groundwater that's really high in salts, particularly upstream of the, Simi Valley and Hill Canyon treatment plants. And so, we haven't been able to do that. So water conservation has helped reduce the loads. So the loads are way down. We're actually meeting the allowable loads in the stream. But because we just did it by reducing water, we aren't meeting the concentrations. So we've been, and then not all of the desalters that were anticipated have been built yet, right? So if you remember back, the TMDL is a planning document. This particular one was a load one. Everybody was kind of meeting their loads. So even though we weren't meeting the objectives, everybody was kind of meeting the loads. So we weren't doing a whole lot. Then this year happened. The regional water board said, we're past the due date. You're supposed to be meeting the concentrations. We think we made a mistake on how we wrote the wastewater treatment plant limits. We're going to change your limits. And so in May of this year, Hill Canyon and Simi Valley got new permit limits that are more stringent than they have ever had before. Hill Canyon can probably meet those limits. Simi Valley cannot meet those limits without membrane treatment. So they now have 5 years to kind of figure out what they're going to do. We're going to look at regulatory solutions, various other things. Camarillo, we don't know what's going to happen yet. They haven't gotten their new permit. They're mainly not discharging anymore, so they're probably going to be okay. They also are working on, remember I said there was this possibility of offsetting some of their load with desalter. They have a desalter. So they might be okay, but we don't know yet. We won't know until we see their permit. So that's kind of where we are on the TMDLs. I just wanted to note one other thing because we were talking about salts. There is this other salt requirement. So all the TMDL stuff is just about the streams, the surface water. There's a salt and nutrient management plan requirement that the stakeholder group is also working on that is for groundwater. It's a state requirement, not federal. It's part of the recycled water policy. It's a similar concept, right? It's a comprehensive plan to kind of manage salts and nutrients to groundwater, but it is fully stakeholder driven. They develop it. The regional board then can approve it. The group is developing this. It's really probably at this point, these plans have not had real significant impacts, but they could influence the requirements in recycled water permits, and it could potentially be a driver for building desalters. If people need to sort of say, we've got too high of a salt load going into the groundwater basin, then they could potentially get credit for offsetting their loads through that desalter. So I think both of these TMDLs have some mechanisms to kind of work on collaborative solutions. And so we wanted to highlight them, but that's kind of my overview. So do you have questions?
So you mentioned the city of Thousand Oaks may be able to comply because there's 100% water supply for them to their treatment plant, right?
Yeah, so there's two reasons. One is the source of the water coming in. The other, and I'm not get too technical, is the objectives, the way they were set are really representative of Hill Canyon's and Conejo Creek's district quality. They didn't actually consider all the natural sources that are up in the Arroyo Simi. So there's just naturally higher sulfate TDS in the Arroyo Simi. So that's what we need to change regulatorily.
I'm just curious, what are the new permit limits for TDS? Thousand Oaks and Simi Valley.
Yeah, so they basically end up being the concentration limit because what they did was they changed the flow. So before the flow was the design flow of the treatment plant, now it's the flow at the time the sample's collected.
Actual flow, okay.
Yeah.
But as far as Simi Valley though, do they have a TSO?
Yes,
They do.
Time schedule order.
time schedule order.
Don't speak
Oh, I'm
particular
sorry.
acronym language.
I'm speaking wastewater.
Yeah, so that's what's giving them 5 years to comply with those new limits is a time schedule order.
Right. Do you think moving forward, they may go to zero discharge?
Probably not, but I don't want to speak for Al. Yeah. But it was the point we made in the adoption hearing was that, if they're going to treat this water, why would they discharge it? Right.
It's basically the same position that the LV Triumpho JPA found themselves in. They were, although it wasn't salts, it was nitrogen for them. But the same driver, they were like, well, if you're going to treat this water to this incredibly pristine level, we're not going to discharge it into the creek. We're going to deliver it so that it improves our water supply resilience.
Well, it's an interesting story to me that I've lost touch of this for some years now, but I can remember that we had in the Santa Paula discharge for chloride. That was lower than what was coming out of Santa Clarita for a permit.
Yeah.
And it's just that made no sense to me.
Yep.
And so I'm sure they've done some revisions and stuff, but
I work on that one too. I could tell you all about it if you want it. They just stopped discharging to the stream and then they got,
Nation, right?
well, yeah, but then they ended up having issues with the groundwater limits. Then it became a groundwater thing and then the salt nutrient management plan played in. So, yeah.
And then another thing was that we actually ran into problems with on-site waste treatment systems where they actually, by conservation, they actually came out with higher values than. Well, so the declination is the flow, the escalation is the concentration.
We're seeing that a little bit in some of the streams, right? I wouldn't say that it's universally higher, but it's definitely not going down.
This is interesting and you just gave me an answer for my homework under chance. It's Salter, TMDL, Simi Valley. Plan. There you go.
A chance for new ideas.
That's under chance.
Conflict.
Wild card or emergency. Prompt dramatic shifts.
I in the middle. Yeah.
Or it's a,
So as for Simi
And
Valley, as you mentioned, the Calleguas SMP project, which is a great project, by the way, for us to improve the water quality. And it helps so many other causes that were not envisioned when this the SMP or Brandland at that time was planned, mainly because of pivot trees, right? That's how it was designed. So one question is, can Simi Valley comply with this TMDLs under your processes without a brine line to their project? Or SMP, sorry, I don't want to.
It's okay.
Well, I think that the way that we have proposed to address it is to try to avoid the treatment, right? So we're trying to get rid of infiltration into the system from the groundwater as one to reduce the amount of salts coming in and then try to change the objectives because we don't think the objectives apply. So those, and then reduce the sources we can, like water softeners and things of that nature. So we want to do those first. And then I think if those don't work, then I think it's,
The Salter.
then I think it's what construction is on the table.
And by day to day.
We banned them up in Santa Clarita.
Yes.
We were sending so much salt down to the roads.
Under consideration.
Yeah.
So we were hitting 100
Variations.
Very good.
grams of salt.
Thank you for here and giving the presentation.
No, thank
Appreciate
you
it.
for having me. Any other?
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Do we have a question? Dr. Robert?
Very informative.
you just made something click in my mind with the water softeners. We're just dumping tons of salt
Yeah.
down the drain.
Yeah.
We banned them in Santa.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
coming. We
Ashley.
appreciate the presentation. Thank you so much. All right, up next, we have strategic plan update workshop session 2. Ian.
Yeah, so it's my pleasure to introduce Charlotte, who's gonna lead this. As you've noticed, we've had a little bit of a rotating cast. We have a strategic plan update group that's gonna be working on updating the plan itself. And so as part of that, we wanted to rotate through who was moderating exercises. So today it's gonna be Charlotte and Tricia. Take it away.
Great. Thank you, Ian. Good evening, President Avila, Vice President Robert, members of the board. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to facilitate tonight's next step in a process of updating the board strategic plan. Ian reminded that we have a staff working group on this issue with Tricia, Jennifer's, and myself. We meet regularly apart from the board meeting to really figure out how is the best way to solicit your input to make the update of the strategic plan the best and most reflective of your board that it can. We do appreciate this is a different type of thinking and really value your participation and engagement. So with that, I'll introduce tonight's discussion with a brief recap of where we've been. We've talked about types of change drivers in the context of 4 categories: advancements in science and technology, conflict or competition, new ideas or values, as well as chance. And 2 weeks ago, you gave us some great ideas in this regard. This is just an alphabetical list of some of those fantastic ideas that you all shared. I'll just draw out a few that were mentioned by more than one person: artificial intelligence, climate change, collaboration, the drought, groundwater, ROVs. It was just a wide variety of ideas that you came up with change drivers of the past, what has influenced Calleguas to date. So of those, your board selected 6 as continuing into the future. I'll recap those quickly: climate change, reduction of imported water supplies, infrastructure decision-making, the need for local control and supply development, artificial intelligence, and staff empowerment through utilizing new technologies. We had some artwork going on last time, so really the creative juices were flowing there. So with that, Jen Vasquez is going to post these top 6 as a reminder of what
You're a great robot.
it is.
I'll never tell. It's to my house.
Thank you, Jen. And as Jen's post that, we'll talk about the next decade drivers of change. And that was the handout that you all got a couple weeks ago. If you don't have it with you, that's okay. But really the purpose is to identify those change drivers that will affect the district between now and 2036, which is the board's 10-year planning horizon. And they can be those previously identified 6, the big list that I showed you, or none of the above. They can be completely new. So we're going to do it a little bit differently this time. You get to stay seated. You don't have to put sticky notes on things. And we're just going to kind of go around the table. And we're going to find out what you think, starting with you, Director Quady, if you don't mind kicking it off. Yes.
Shut your mouth.
I'm sorry, about the toaster today.
So as you relay your top change drivers for the next 10 years, Tricia will note it on the big large pad we have here. So please.
I'm trying to go through the big idea dump that I had last time.
Yeah.
Try to skip down a little bit.
Great.
So, and sometimes I feel like I have crossover. Well, so
Sure.
yeah, I have problems with that, but
Inevitable.
Yeah, it's not a problem. No. 6. Okay. Right up there. Can you see that, Director McMillan?
Sorry. I'm 66. I can't.
Oh, no. Let's see.
so.
Do we relocate that?
It's okay.
Can you go back up?
Let's do that.
Can you go?
Perfect.
Are you gonna go through the slides? Okay.
Go back to these top 6 here. Yeah. Great. Okay.
Yeah, so, seeing how you had the, and how it impacts Calleguas and all that, so first one, advancements in science and technology, I said AI and data center regulations. That is going to impact Calleguas by broadly improving communication internally and externally. I expect it to improve modeling, data reduction, and actionable planning scenarios, water energy use and costs, raise the level of statewide regional water management with stakeholder engagements and multi-agency teams.
Do we pause and give Tricia a moment? Start with artificial intelligence and data center.
Yeah, that's just, yeah, I'm just giving the, how I think Calleguas will be impacted.
Exactly. Let's, yeah, just give Tricia a moment here.
Oh, while she's doing that, you actually spurred an interesting thought. I saw advancements in science and technology as facilitating our development. But actually, I realized that especially with data centers, science and technology may use water.
And so when you said consumption and cost, that's.
I have that later for the what was the fourth one?
Conflict or competition.
There's conflicts, yeah.
Right.
So are we
That's what the
going one at a
crossroads are.
time with all the directors or are we going, what's the plan?
Well, we are, but if you'd like to have it a more free-flowing conversation, that's fine as well.
No, that's fine. That's what I'm asking is there are 4 areas, right?
Right.
So each director says one same thing and then come back. Is that what we're doing?
We'd like to get all your ideas
All ideas.
around.
I just once.
Ideas.
Why don't we do one? See how it goes.
There's that many ideas. I don't know. It depends on how fast Tricia can write.
Well, I can tell mine. Actually, I had this very similar for mine.
Okay.
What I wrote down is AI technology and its implementation in water system operations.
Okay.
What I wrote down.
Can I ask you to be a bit more specific on what you see in terms of operations being influenced by AI?
Well, what I see is there are so many things we could do with the AI. So which part of our operations that we could implement the AI aspect of it?
Mm-hmm.
And how does it impact on our staffing needs? And how does impact like even our staff training? Can we train staff to move into those positions?
Okay.
But initially, we have to identify which are the areas we want to go, artificial intelligence.
Right.
That's what was going through my mind.
Understood. Very good. Thank you.
So I was cut off. So, and then one of the other impacts I see is cybersecurity adaptations versus attacks. And so, what I'm seeing is Calleguas's response is, I don't know, should I go through this? Because she can't write all these things.
You can capture it and Ian's taking notes as well.
I can give you this afterwards.
And we'll do that as well as a backup.
I didn't see it yet.
That's okay. It's okay. And I will mention, Director Quady, we are going to have another round. We're going to take a break and then we're going to talk about district responses to these drivers of change, anticipated district responses.
Okay,
So right now, we're just identifying the drivers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the other one, I wanted to say for science technology is drones as tools and threats.
Okay. Can you expand on what you mean by as tools?
Being able to have security,
Okay.
being able to check on systems without having to go there.
Okay.
So,
Great.
and operational benefits.
Great.
And then the threats versus terrorism.
Sure. And when you talked about cybersecurity, I think you mentioned adaptation versus attacks.
Yeah.
So adaptation meaning what we can do here to mitigate the threats. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that
That's
the sentiment? Okay, very good. Very good.
additional notes, but I won't go through those.
Okay, all right, we'll come back. Director Pacala, did you say your piece on science and technology?
Very conflict or competition.
Go into that, yes. We can go into all 4 of your quadrants. Yes.
I'm trying to go on
Yes.
4. Okay, that's what I'm trying to understand.
Right.
I already mentioned first one.
Right.
On the chance, I wrote down climate change. The reason I wrote down climate change is we don't know what's going to happen. It's a big chance how the climate is going to change. As we already know, the current climate change, how it's impacting our lack of storage and lack of water supply because we can't store the water like before. That's what I listed there. Under conflict or competition, I guess, I think like Scott, I said data centers.
Okay. Why did you put that in that category?
Well, what my understanding is they will be using a lot of water for the data centers. However, we don't know exactly how much they use. From my perspective, as long as they convince the local water system there is enough water supply to build these data centers, it's good for us. We need data centers for AI purposes. Somewhere they have to be built.
But at this time, we won't know how they're,
Huh?
we won't know how those data centers are regulated yet.
Yeah.
Or if they continue to use as much water, because there are different technologies for data center cooling that may not need as much water. They may be a little more expensive, but regulation may push that.
Right.
Why don't we give them these notice to serve? I mean, because when a developer comes in and builds a home, he has to tell us how much water is going to be used by that development. And we have to say, yes, we can provide, or no, we can't.
Right.
So why can't we do the same thing?
There's legislation to that effect right now, actually.
Excellent. That's one of my drivers for change is future federal, state regulation and legislation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I didn't put the data centers in there as a conflict. I put them as new ideas because I had this discussion with our general manager a few weeks ago. You know, they don't have to be a competition. We have to figure out how to work with them because they are going to be part of our future. And whether it be some new technology or the placement or where they're built, where we could build our pipeline through their building, never waste the water, it just goes through, cools their building, goes right back into our pipes. You know, it's different ways of thinking about how that water is used, right? Is it a closed loop system? Maybe the closed loop system is our infrastructure, right? It goes through there, cools it down, comes right back up. You know, it's just.
I think it's getting a little mixed up because I was still stuck on number one.
Well, that's okay. We can come back around and yeah.
When I said data centers in my mind, what I was thinking about when these data centers are being built in a small community, there's no water. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
If they have the ability to get water supply from the supplier in that area and even invest in those water supplies, that's good. Good. That's good for us, good for the industry.
Yeah.
So President Avila, you see them as inevitable.
They're inevitable. And I don't see them as a conflict. I see them as a necessity towards future growth in our communities and the world really. And it's just how we collaborate as a water agency to best serve the public data centers, future growth. And we have to figure out how to go about it the right way rather than see it as conflict or burden on us in the future.
And very interesting. Do you know who's getting involved in the data center discussion? Is Aaron Brockovich.
No.
So
Well, and I'm-
interesting to see what she takes on.
Well, and I'm seeing the Pennsylvania model.
Okay, please expand.
Basically, Pennsylvania's recently put out, man, you've got to work with us. Basically, so that, this in the guardrails, this is what's still developing, so.
Yes.
In 10 years, it should be all sorted out. I think.
Great.
Well,
Quite a patchwork of some states welcoming them and some saying, no, we don't want you.
may actually contribute to the generation of new water sources. Right? It may be a collaborative thing where they say, we need this data center, you don't have enough water, so we're gonna help fund disposers or whatever. So to
Yeah.
kind of some of the point there of working together with enough demand, there's options.
Yeah, which is, I agree. I think it'll enhance collaboration a lot of levels that we've not seen.
It has the ability to, but I think there has to be some foresight early on to start that conversation and maybe move that ball in that direction.
Well, that's, again, what are the constraints to where you can have them? What kind of overall picture can you create with what the guardrails are versus where the AI data centers are, and then how regionally different everybody is.
Did you have more to add to yours, President Avila?
Director McCullough, are you done?
Well, on
I know we're cutting into each
yes,
other.
or values. I was focusing more on values. robots and technology may be doing most of our work in our homes and most of the work in our offices. And my thought is, how can we make sure the future generations will learn the basic skills before using these robots? That's important for anybody to know basic skills. If robots do everything, people don't know anything. If a robot is not working, we can't function.
Right. When you say robots, do you mean like the ROVs we recently acquired, or what's your universe of robots when you say that word?
Robots could be for doing labor work in offices, process improvements. Maybe it's not a robot, but to AI.
Sure.
That's what I mean. Main thing for me is future generations need to learn basic skills.
Okay.
Even though you have all these improvements coming up in AI and robots, whoever is going to do our work.
Right. Very good. Thank you.
I was told I wasn't gonna have a calculator in my pocket everywhere I went. That's fifth grade teacher.
Yeah, I came from that point where you had operators that didn't believe calculators.
Yeah.
And you also have, being able to count change back.
It's really human adaptation to evolving technologies.
Yeah.
Director Robert, do you want to continue on with your?
I'll keep going down the same hill, just to carry on with the fear of are robots going to replace us, and computers didn't replace us, and all advancements in technology. I think they just empower us to do more. So I think the whole replace your employees with robots is short-sighted on the books of some companies. And I think the long game is just empower the employees that you have to do more, to grow more with capabilities. And I think it's one of those things, you have to embrace it. Otherwise, you're just slowing down. So the more we embrace it, I think we do pretty well compared to a lot of districts to investigate and embrace cautiously and with cybersecurity. But I think they kind of overlap, right? There's chance in the advancements of technology and conflict and competition and new ideas and values. I don't know if they're all individual, but they kind of all go hand in hand. The way I ended up seeing this was macroscopically. You have big drivers and they all have quadrants of these future drivers. So I think maybe this goes into another training in the future or exercise where we boil these down into what are our biggest impactors in the future. What do we see? AI data centers, water advancements, economic drive as far as cost or economic pressures, water demand, climate change. I think we're driving towards these big main factors, and then we can kind of boil back from there. What's our positions on data centers? What's our position on conservation, climate change, that thing?
And what will our role be, right, as a district?
Well, how do we, what our role is, but also how we position ourselves to be ready for it.
Right.
And be the visionaries. Discussing with data centers ahead of time, how can you help the community? Yes, we don't want to just block you, right? We don't want it to be short-sighted, but how do we make this work?
Right. Okay, thank you. Dr. McMillan?
Well, it sounds like I'd like to see us do a SWOT. Just to kind of see where all these lies, because sometimes AI can be an improvement and it could also be an opposition, so I hope maybe we could try that at the future workshop. But again, I'd like to add a number 7. And again, I feel very strongly about the future federal state regulations and legislation, because as you know, things come at us out of nowhere.
All the time.
You spend your time trying to either support it or kill it. And we have no control over that. Some we do.
Yes.
We have legislators that will work with us, but some, it's just a fight.
Do you see a specific realm where that's going to be more pronounced, state and federal legislation and regulation, a specific subject area?
The federal.
But within our universe of waters, what do you see as maybe the main thing to look out for or to
My God, it comes from everywhere.
everywhere?
You know, I remember the very first piece of legislation I worked on at Met was there was a federal requirement that we had to come up with 10 new contaminants every year. It's like, what if we can only come up with 5? You know, maybe the technology's not there. So it's just, they have ideas, but it's not practical. And that's where our education comes in.
Yes. And you mentioned SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So you'd like to see that sort of analysis
Just go through that using these.
using these. Okay, very good.
Something that I'm realizing is that we may be acknowledging that there will be change and chaos. We don't know what it is, where it's coming from, but the fact that it will be present is an accepted fact. So maybe our position is that we just make sure that we're able to pivot and adapt quickly, position ourselves more quickly to those changes, so that whatever the decision may be, we may not see it, but we may be ready for it.
But we'll also see constrictions. So like if we have the ability to treat PFAS, for example, but we don't have a way to dispose of that in the state of California.
Right. Director Quady, I do want to go back to you. I feel like you had more to add from your list.
Yeah, I was just talking about number 1.
Yes, okay. Please.
So on number 2, conflict, just continuing that conflict or competition, I'm expecting that AI can gain a trust level standard. And that's under the guardrails as well. I see an ever escalating standard of mitigation and proof for state projects. That'll always be changed, it'll always be ahead of whatever we propose, whatever. And so that'll be a factor. The reach of alternate facts and conclusions. That's going to be new technologies and adaptations, the cybersecurity, AI hackers. Also under conflict and competition, increasing resources and financial pressure on purveyors. Where I know Don Ortega's done some work on this already, but it's to pool efforts of the smaller agencies.
Okay.
And so that completes my conflict or competition box.
Very good. I would like to go back to what you said about the general acceptance of AI by the public. But am I paraphrasing that correctly or what?
I think it's something that's going to have to prove itself with the public, just like computers did. There's a lot of skepticism about computers in the workplace.
Okay.
Thinking around it. And it would take jobs. They thought it would, be a hazard. Well, it turns out that it was very facilitative and we eventually got over it. And I think AI is going to do that same cycle.
Director Pacala, did you have more to add?
Talking to me?
Yes, I am. Yeah, did you?
Yeah, you, I was, that's something. Okay,
Please. Did you have more to add?
no,
Okay. I know we kind of got off track a little bit, so I want to make sure Director Quady's heard and anybody else who would like to add in.
All right, I'll jump in now.
Great.
So I agree with everything that's been said. Data centers for advancement technology are going to be huge. AI obviously has already impacted the way we do business, and we need to keep embracing it. And it should be in our strategic plan to embrace the technology, use the technology to help be more efficient in our efforts to change the way we do water in terms of conservation, in terms of water supply development. In also in advancements technology, we have to stay up to date with water conservation advancements in technology. When we go to continue our desal study, not only think about what potential projects are out there, but how can we build these projects to be efficient in power and to be the best technologies we can get for membrane technologies, right? So thinking into the future, thinking far ahead into how we build these things so that they are efficient, cost effective in the long run. In terms of chance, again, going back to the presentation we had earlier, right? There's the ever-changing regulations and using those situations to enhance our reliability, enhance our supply. That's also gonna hit the other point with climate whiplash. We saw what happened in the 2020 drought that really contributed to quite a bit of what went into the last strategic plan. And with that, partnerships. For conflict, I don't see a lot of conflict. I see opportunities for growth. Really, the only conflict I see that really is gonna hurt our ratepayers, which we have to look out for, are the metropolitan rate increases that are getting ever higher and higher, which goes back into really developing these local supplies and projects and future-proofing our system and requirements. New ideas, obviously, I mean, we've hit on those in data centers, AI, human interface and adaptation to evolving technologies. We have to embrace them. And all that should, in my view, be part of our strategic plan. So,
When you say opportunities for growth, can I ask you to elaborate on that?
yeah, opportunities for growth. I don't think we should, I've said this since I was first joined the board. Can't put all our eggs in one basket. We have to have diversification of supply and invest in our futures and invest in our reliability for future growth. That's a big portion of this plan. Sorry, blended them all in together.
No, it's great. That's great. I'm just, yeah. Tricia, you good? Great.
I just wanted to add a subordinate item that I didn't detail because the list is long, right?
That's true.
As far as the Calleguas response, and I think President Avila touched on this, is that one of the things for the advancements in AI is that we, Calleguas, use a focused, deliberate goals, step-by-step approach towards projects. So I think we had the AWA talk, and one of the things that I loved that he said was that got to focus on your point of pain. And I think that's absolutely true. So there's no reason to go out and willy-nilly or chaotically get involved with AI as much as we have some issues, problems, or things to solve, and let's go after them deliberately.
Fully, right, focused.
And try to constrain that window a bit.
Great. Please hold that thought also for the next part of the exercise we're going to be doing. Are there any other drivers of change we do want to know? Yes, President Avila.
By one that I think should have a portion in our strategic plan, and that is to ensure that we are thoughtful and sympathetic to the cost increases that our ratepayers are dealing with, right? The ever increasing cost of everything. So, yeah.
Like down, down, sorry.
Serious.
Am I bleeding?
I saw Omar kick the leg out. Omar did it. He kicked the leg out.
Does that go under chance or conflict?
Able
Hope it was chance. Thanks, Omar.
I may comment about the water rates that our president is talking about. Certainly, we are not only sympathetic, we want to make sure that we have lower water rates.
Yes.
At the same time, when I go to talk to people, they ask me, as soon as they know I'm the director of Calleguas, are you going to decrease the rates? I said that will never happen because we have a large infrastructure that we have to replace. That's old infrastructure. We have to develop local water supplies. We need money. So we don't get any taxation. We have to increase the rates. Our job is to make sure that we are doing efficient job, and we will make sure the rates are the lowest we could possibly maintain.
I do want to clarify, we do get some property taxes. It's just not very much. Dan could speak to the exact number.
Yeah, well, that property tax is with operative 213, proposition 13 property tax. That's what you're talking about.
The one that's $5 a parcel or $5 an acre, if I'm correct. Standby charge, thank you.
Oh, standby charge, yes, yes.
So that is some property tax, but it is,
It's not it's the one that's capped and we cannot tap onto the property, general taxes for our work that we do. Not on any water, any even city systems, they cannot tap into that.
yeah, I just want to make sure it was clear that we do get some property tax revenue, but it is, as you know, quite limited.
Right.
Well, I would support that in the sense of saying as long as energy, as long as CPI, materials, as long as those costs are not going down, we're never going to see a decrease.
Yeah.
So there's a big contribution.
Right. Any other change drivers to note over the next 10-year planning horizon? You got more? Okay.
In fact, some of the things that are aided by any of the technology changes we previously talked about, I actually think that regulatory wise, as that changes, we're going to see fundamental unit process changes, basic water treatment. I do think that the limited resource water systems of smaller systems or purveyors, for example, they will have to be able to advance. And there may be a call, maybe some of the larger resource agencies being able to assist, and that pressure will be there. Let's see. We will achieve operational deliverables via regional and state whole view focus. So I'm optimistic, one of my optimistic points where I think there will be a better coordination, compilation of information throughout the entire state where actually things will start to happen because it'll be regionally and strategically advantaged and it'll be recognized as such, but that's my idealistic.
What makes you optimistic in that regard? Because
I see things happening now that are happening that way. So I do see multi-agencies getting together. I do see communication improving. I see, and AI could be one of those things, but just the fact that we are having, like when you have those mobile units out surveying our distribution system, for example, the fact that things could be immediately plugged in to our main data center here, that's taken for granted now, right? But so I just think that there'll be a better communication interagency wise, and I think if agencies are going to start realizing that everything has to pool, and someone's going to be better at data reduction to have a deliverable.
Actually, equating, you just hit on one that I think is very important that we haven't hit on. And that's the interconnectedness of different distribution systems, Las Virgenes, partnership with United and Ventura and Casitas. We have to look for those. We have to look for those wherever we can and encourage them.
Everyone would be if we could find economies of scale across districts.
One of the other things that, one of the other things I'm also a little optimistic about, idealistic about is will be progressive industrial scholastic research engagement with integral stages and grants or venture capital.
Okay.
Much like what you saw with Las Virgenes. And are we on chance yet?
We are.
Was that just your first fall? Oh my God. Dr. Quady, I'm sorry, your time's up.
Okay, so under chance, I have bolded and I've truncated these sentences a bit, but the public recognizing multi-pronged statewide water portfolio with recovery or stabilizing ecosystems. AI hacking was one of the chances. Declining US market strength, credit rating, and barriers for international trade. See, that's going to be something. And of course, the world catastrophic events, whether it's war, climate, or anthropic environmental events.
Do you see those global events as having impacts on the district over the next 10 years?
Yeah, in some cases, we may not even detect that they're going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I did cite, I'm reading a book on Vikings coming to Norway shortly. And that's one of the things that I got a kick out of was that here, there were places in Europe, late Iron Age, the 6th century.
Mhm.
And they were just totally blacked out by a catastrophic volcano eruption.
Yeah.
We've seen one more recently, but that totally blacked them out. Their sun and moon looked the same. And they ended up abandoning agricultural fields and going somewhere else. And I think this author is taking me down to some of the bases for why the Vikings were the way they were. But anyway, I just thought, they didn't really know what was happening back then.
Right.
It's just all of a sudden it's all blacked out.
Right.
So I'm not sure that when we see climate change, I'm not sure everybody can detect or realize the reality of it.
Okay.
So,
Director Quaid, you just made me think of another one. We have to reduce the reliance on foreign supplies wherever we can, because who knows when and if, how long those will be available for, right?
that'll be there'll be a chance, and that's another competition. But and of course, the major California watershed fires, liquefaction events. Talked about will we recognize higher frequency of events with limited recovery cycles? And at any point, has sufficient commitment and actions occurred to maintain core infrastructure systems? That's a question.
Are there any good chances?
Yeah, I thought you should ask about assessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I said last time, I did have, it's funny when I did this idea adopted, I ended up having idealistic, maybe unrealistic things. And at the same time, I had real pessimistic things.
There could be more grant funding.
Broad view.
Anyway, so I think that covers chance for me.
Very good. And when you said reduce reliance on imported supplies, President Avila?
And foreign supplies, so
Such as?
that we use for our infrastructure, our servers, our computers, things like that.
Okay.
You can buy to estimate consumable parts, materials. That's all going to strengthen our reliability in the future and resilience.
Great. Okay, thank you.
I had it last time.
He's locked out of it.
Mr. Shen?
Yeah.
Just, all right. Fantastic. So I'll wait for Director McMillan to explain the next part of it. But thank you all. That was a healthy discussion. So. Yeah. Should we go for it? Okay.
For a 5-minute break?
We explain the next part and then we'll do a 10-minute if that's okay with you.
Sounds good.
Excellent, thank you. So now that we've identified all of these change drivers, we're going to talk about how the district can respond to them. We want to consider actions that are, yes. Everything good? Okay. We want to consider actions that are under the district's authority and influence. So don't consider chance or the things that we've talked about, but what can we do as a district over the next 10 years to respond to some, many, all of the change drivers you have identified here? And one way to think about it, which you don't have to think about it in this way, are in these 4 categories that staff has identified as sort of maybe a helpful guide. So there's 4 categories you might want to look at, and we'll leave this poster up during the break: institutional, operational, infrastructure, and organizational. And I'm going to go through each one and explain what that means. So give me a minute here.
Am I to understand that organizational and institutional don't overlap?
Say that again, sorry.
Am I to understand that organizational and institutional don't overlap?
Or not to understand.
They overlap.
By the associative property?
It was an artistic.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a little license here. Exactly, not drawn to scale.
Spiritual bend bang.
So Director McMillan is explaining the next part of the exercise, which is to think about how the district can respond to these change drivers over the next 10 years. And perhaps in these four categories, you might think about those responses. So let me explain what we mean by each one. Institutional. So what external stakeholders does the district need to form partnerships with? Local, regional, state, federal. Examples: legislators, business groups, nonprofits, schools, colleges, universities, environmental groups. The list can be endless, but that's really the meaning of institutional, are those external partnerships that can help us with a response to the change drivers that we've identified. Operational, what we mean by that are new or enhanced processes in-house that we can start, that we can expand upon. An example would be, we have done a summer plant run. That's formed in a new thing for the district to get a handle on how the plant performs in the summer and make sure everyone's up to speed on how to handle that process. So that's operational. Infrastructure, pretty straightforward. What projects do we need to build, repair, replace, rehab to meet, to address these change drivers? And lastly, organizational. Those are considerations of how to meet these additional goals. Examples would be, do we hire new staff? Do we contract out the work? New ventures can mean new workloads. So how do we factor that in? So that would be an example of an organizational aspect. So as you noted, Director Robert, the circles are interconnected. They will likely intersect on one or more levels. We're not asking you to identify these connections. These are meant to serve as a guide. And certainly you can think outside of these. So with your permission, I respectfully request that we do a 10-minute break, President Avila, and during that break, think about your categories of responses and responses that the district might take over the next 10 years to address these identified change drivers. Any questions on that?
All right. 10 minutes.
Great. Thank you. Great. Hope y'all enjoyed the break and had some time to think about some of the district responses to the change drivers we identified. We heard some responses already from you in terms of artificial intelligence, for example. It's going to help us increase efficiency, help with processes, help decide what projects to build. So I think we have a fair amount of responses probably recorded And in the interest of time, maybe we can just do some high-level additions to that list. So please, I open the floor to, yes, Director.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Yep.
Did you talk about organizational change? I didn't catch that.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, the considerations of how to meet these additional goals as an organization, for example, if we have, we want to hire new staff, we want to contract work out, things like that. That would be an example of organizational.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask that we keep these responses pretty concise and let's kick it off. Who wants to go first? Director McMillan? Director Quady?
I think I gave one response, already in terms of the AI. So I won't repeat that. That's the focused deliberate goals. And, organizationally or operationally, engage in collaboratives and pooled information for regional state projects. Open engagement involving venture capital opportunities. This could develop from workforce development or staff expertise, universities, venture capital, environmental professionals, or interactive. Of course, we have to adapt to AI hacking and cybersecurity threats. And infrastructure refinements become timelier among the choices of focus, tools, schedules, capital, and organizational flexibility. And that ultimately maintain an expertise level for technology updates and water industry adoptions.
Thank you.
Director McCullough?
On the institutional universities, work with universities to research so that we can get the latest technologies. And also we have to work very closely, as you're doing now, with elected officials, so that laws, we can work with them to change the laws if necessary for improved efficient use. Increased funding, local funding. Under operational, I put in ASR well readiness. ASR well operational readiness. What I mean by that is we have 21 wells. 18. 21, right? 18.
18, 19 if you include Fairview.
Yeah, we have 19 wells. As you know, Omar, we talked about it. Since our wells sit idle for a long period of time, when we need it, they have to work. So I know you have been doing reports and studies. I just want to make sure that's part of our strategic plan that our wells run when we need them to run. And the efficient operation of the treatment plant. I believe we are doing that. Make sure that's part of our strategy. Infrastructure. Progressive design build process for large capital projects. Organization. One issue that I would like to make sure we pay our department leaders within our district competitive salaries. Maybe that could be done as part of the survey before we talk about the salary increases for the employees.
Director Robert?
Yeah, I was writing down some notes. Mine kind of went all over from very high level to very specific, but I'll pick my top. Organizational, I focused on staff as far as succession planning, training and talent recruitment, and institutional knowledge transfer. I see it from a perspective of growth of knowledge base and expertise and capabilities. But those were kind of my top. Organizational. For operational, I think we've talked about most of the big ones. But mine kind of go into water development or water source development and aging infrastructure. I think we do a pretty good job we've got a pretty good plan on how to mitigate the aging infrastructure, but you know, as a classic car gets older and older, it gets more and more expensive to maintain. So I see that landscape changing. Oh, and I'm sorry, that one was infrastructure. And institutional, you know, I know we do, my mind went to investments and planning. I know we do a good job of managing investments with Chandler Group, but they always seem, let's look at the history of the district and how long it's been around. And our investments are bonds, and there are some long-term bonds, but I always wonder, well, I leave those briefs wondering how far ahead we could have investments. How big can we think investment wise? I always want to, I'm always left thinking if there was another opportunity, you know, to be creative. So that's where my thoughts went.
Interesting.
Director McMillan?
How much, the only other thing I'm thinking of is organizational. Do we do cross-training? Is there a need?
Yes, we do extensive cross-training, both within the O&M group and within other individual departments and then across departments at varying levels.
Excellent. Thank you.
And it is something I absolutely believe strongly we should continue to do and look for opportunities to expand. It's been very effective.
Okay. So for myself, there's not a whole lot that hasn't already been hit on, but you know, for institutional things like investments and business development are things that I had in here. You know, what else can we invest on? How else can we offset some of these rate increases? For organizational, I'm thinking things like being advocate for our employees, ensuring our employees, our staff loves working here. They're happy, right? Doing, you know, things like surveys to ensure that staff is happy here where they're working at. And to make sure that they know we're looking out for them. You know, ensuring that we continue things like our state and federal advocates that have provided great dividends towards our organization, and supporting organizations like Aqua and Southern California Water Coalition. And that's what I have there.
Great variety. So, I'm sorry.
President, when you mentioned about revenues to our users, just recalled any way we can increase revenues for the district, like land that we have, if it's potentially feasible, leasing the land or renting out towers, any areas we could increase revenue. I'm kind of revenue generating ideas or options for district to reduce impact on water rate increases.
Encourage outside the box thinking and the way we do investments.
It's interesting you say that because I'm interested in what the net personnel come up with and their assessment, selling off the islands.
Oh, yeah, I can talk to you. It's a big issue. Talk to you about.
So to me, that's something to be interested in follow.
Yes, I'll be happy to tell you exactly where we are with that.
We don't have any islands to sell though.
Yeah, we don't have anything to sell, I know.
No islands.
On that note, President Avila, with your permission, I'll wrap up. Just give the board some idea of next steps, which is advancing here. Let's see. Okay, so first of all, thank you for all your thoughtful input. Per your request, President Avila, we will provide the board with staff's ideas. As a management team, we have developed a set of focal issues which we will include in an upcoming board packet and have a short presentation on at an upcoming board meeting. The board retreat, as you know, is scheduled for Monday, September 28th from 1:30 to 5. It isn't that far away, and we want to have as productive as conversation as possible. So we are going to ask you to think about just a couple of things before that retreat. You don't have to bring anything with you. But your board has asked for us to think about accomplishments, right, in the strategic plan, and you had wanted that included in the next update. What have been our accomplishments? And we would love to hear your input on that as well. What do you think have been the biggest district accomplishments since the strategic plan of 2023? And if you could use that as a guide, that would be terrific. How have we met the objectives laid out in the plan, and what really rises to the top for you? And secondarily, a more visionary exercise. What are some of the aspirational goals we should have in place for 2036? How do we build on that record of accomplishment? So some things to think about before the 28th. And are there any additional comments or questions? Oh, before I do that, we anticipate having a draft to you in October or November of the strategic plan. And by the end of this year, we hope that you'll be able to consider adoption of the finalized plan. So any questions, comments, or feedback on the plan or anything else tonight?
Just one question. Did you expect as much feedback?
We're thrilled. This is very, very helpful. So thank you for your thoughtful engagement.
And I just want to say that current staff, I've seen Calleguas for a few years, and current staff, I think, allows us this strong foundation to be able to look out and extrapolate all these other ideas, these other further concepts. So I appreciate where we are today, and that it's all their accomplishments that have allowed us to move on. That's what I see as a big.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
President Avila,
Again,
directors.
thank you, Tricia, you, everyone for your participation and help. And time for sitting here listening to us. All right, up next, we have the study to optimize brackish groundwater desalting in the Upper Calleguas Creek watershed. Ambassadors Council, Christine.
Ian's actually going to take this one.
Okay, good evening, President Avila, directors. It's my pleasure to talk a bit about this concept of an ambassadors council. Just want to give a little background on the desalter study and where we are. Just as a reminder that the desalter study is officially called the Study to Optimize Brackish Groundwater Desalting in the Upper Calleguas Creek Watershed. It doesn't fit super nicely on the title slide, but we all colloquially refer to it as the Regional Desalter Study. But there's a reason that it has this title, and that is because as a collaborative, objective study, we didn't want to bias the consideration or participation of anyone by having a title that was too specific. So this is intended as a study is to capture all available options. But the point of the study is to determine the preferred method to cost effectively convert underutilized brackish groundwater resources into a reliable local supply of potable water. Those of us that have been operating here for a long time know there's not a whole lot of new drops of water in the Upper Calleguas Creek watershed. So the key term in this sentence is potable water, because a lot of that water today is being used for non-potable purposes. And the question is, can we convert some of that to drinking water so that we have a source of drinking water this side of the Santa Susana Tunnel? People have been looking at desalters in this area between Simi Valley, Moore Park, Somas, North Pleasant Valley Basin for 25 plus years. When they've been looked at individually. The point of this study is to zoom out and to look at across the entire area, across the entire upper watershed, where does it make the most sense for regional investment? So The point of this project is to review extensive existing information on desalter concepts, fill in data gaps, and ultimately optimize the approach to regional brackish groundwater desalting. When I say optimizing, I mean by considering not just the volume of water, but where that water is needed and where it can be delivered. And then the cost to produce that water and to deliver it to where it needs to be delivered, along with other factors impacting cost, feasibility, risks, and the ease of implementation. And then to develop ultimately a comprehensive and thorough analysis to justify the cost and complexity of building a new regional desalter, because neither the cost nor the complexity is going to be low. So when I say collaboratively in the previous slide, we're doing this together. We have identified, well, we didn't identify, we asked for people to participate and they self-selected. And we're talking about this group as the study partners, one of whom is Calleguas, but it includes a sampling of our purveyors. So we have a couple IOUs, a couple cities, County Waterworks, and Camarosa Water District. We also have participation from the Fox Canyon Groundwater Management Agency, really wearing their Las Posas Valley Water Master hat, because the basin optimization plan that is included in the settlement for the Las Posas Valley adjudication includes a requirement that Water Master look into the feasibility of developing a regional desalter in the East Las Posas management area. As you'll remember from when we approved the cost of this study to begin with, that we were anticipating a contribution from the GMA because, and they approved in their budget at the last GMA meeting last month, a $100,000 contribution. And that's actually saving them money because if they were to do the study themselves, it would cost more than that. And doing it together reduces costs. And most importantly, probably eliminates redundancy. So we have contributions coming in from the GMA. They've, at least one of their members, including John Demers, who's their executive director, has shown up to all of the workshops we've had so far, which has been 3 workshops. We have progressed about halfway through the steps, but not halfway through the effort at this point. Yes.
I just wanted to go back to the partners. I was surprised not to see the JPA collaboration with Las Virgenes, since their intent is to help identify local water sources, and this kind of seems in line with that. Did we get any notice from Las Virgenes or the JPA that knows about this?
So this study started before we did that JPA that the board approved a couple meetings ago.
Oh, okay.
But at the same time, Las Virgenes is aware as part of one of the partners in the RIST, the Water Resource Implementation Strategy, and they're doing their own kind of long-range local resource, integrated resource planning project that Calleguas is a part of. They're aware of this project. They declined to participate in the study partner level, but they're definitely interested in the outcome.
Okay.
Primarily whether any of this water could ever get through the interconnection. They are very interested today in receiving molecules of water rather than participating in exchange programs. But the JPA specifically to your question was formed after.
I see. Okay.
This study started.
This may fold back into it at some point.
It may, absolutely.
Gotcha.
So so again, we're maybe halfway through on the chart on the screen, but there's probably 70% of the effort remains. Although we have done a lot. So we started off by looking at all the projects that had been the studies that had been done before. We brainstormed with the study partners iterations on those, combinations of those projects, ways that they could be paired together or otherwise organized, as well as new ideas, both for sources of water and end uses of water. And we have since then we increased a huge number of potential concepts, and we have been whittling those down with the idea of getting to a preferred concept at the end of the process, which is anticipated to be in March or April of 2020. We are here at the advanced screening The idea of the advanced screening is reduced from the 12 concepts we have right now to 3 to 5 concepts. And that's when the really heavy lifting that will include to some degree hydrogeological modeling that will take the 6 months between September and March will commence. So we will really be looking at costs and locations and a better idea of how much groundwater is available for each of these projects during that period over the fall and winter. So the idea of the Ambassador Council, everything that I've described so far has taken place at the staff level. And we have, as several of you on the board know, we have a lot of interest from elected officials, not just at this organization, but across the watershed in this project, in the groundwater, in where a desalter should be built. And what Christine and I are proposing in this Ambassador Council is that getting all of those elected officials together would provide a venue for a common understanding of what the study is intending to do, the progress on the study. It would allow those elected officials that were participating. When I say elected officials, of course, there are a couple investor-owned utilities that are part of study partners that don't have governing boards, but they would have regional leadership participation opportunities as well. But the council would have some of the benefits to the council members, the ambassadors, would be an early understanding of the project process. Regional ownership, as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be a complex project. It's going to cost tens of millions of dollars and take a decade to build, if we're lucky. And we are going to need, as a region, regional support for that, irrespective of where the exact location of the desalter is. So having a broad coalition of elected officials involved along the way should help support that. And then elected officials are the best ones to bring forward insight on local economic benefits, what regional equity means, because that can mean different things to different people, depending on where you are, and really what the cost of inaction could be. So those community values, elected officials are probably the best ones to bring those in. So the elected officials in this Ambassador Council could inform the evaluative criteria that are going to be developed later this year, by which we are measuring the projects.
So
yeah, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, to go to that collaborative kind of ambassador process. If a desalter here offsets the allocation requirement for Metropolitan, could Metropolitan be a partner in sort of a wheeling or exchange system where, let's say somebody on the other side of Metropolitan needed more allocation, we're not using it as much. Could they be kind of a fluid transference of credits to try to get more? Well, I guess what I'm saying is if there's water that can be found regionally, could we get partners throughout the Met system? If we're developing local water and then not taking all the allocation, we have no allocation to have, that actually could benefit someone else, which could end up being involved in supporting a project.
So outside of, go ahead.
The way I see the local development, desalted water is for the local benefit. I don't think we have enough quantity for us to really talk about exchanging with Metropolitan. We have to, within Calleguas service area, we have enough demand. One of our discussions in the past is that we want to reduce dependence on imported water.
Right, but if we're not using all of our allocation, then is that something that we could benefit someone else?
Yes, if that's the case, but I
think we'll use all the allocation.
Of course, we can use as much water we are producing locally. That's my perspective.
So a couple of things that outside of demand management periods, so outside of water shortage allocation planning, when there's a drought or some other reason that Metropolitan has to curtail demand, we don't operate in an allocation environment. So we buy from Met what we need as long as they have it.
Oh, okay.
So from year to year, there isn't allocation that we can exchange. Metropolitan is developing a local supply exchange framework that would likely provide the mechanism to do what you suggest, but I agree with Director Pacala that the level of supply that we're targeting with this project would contribute towards the offset of the Metropolitan that we're dependence, the 100% dependence that we have on Metropolitan that we're looking for coming out of the 2023 strategic plan. So this wouldn't provide a glut of water that we would be looking to exchange or trade.
Yeah, I was keying more on if we're less reliant on a Metropolitan, is there value there that we can exchange? But if there's no allocation cap, I guess that is to say that as climate change happens and more water conservation requirements are happening and caps do pop up, and that may be something that we can use at that point to benefit someone else or another agency. Even if it doesn't return something to us, it's a benefit that we can provide kind of our water partners.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking, using the Metropolitan network as a vehicle to have some benefit, however it presents itself.
That thought process is certainly in line with what a number of member agencies, including Calleguas, because we're interested in exchanging water using these exchange and transfer policy operations that Metropolitan is developing to increase our reliability during drought.
And that's something they're working on actively?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Good.
So that idea of changing the way that Metropolitan, the institutional arrangements that Metropolitan developed is something that's top of mind for a lot of people, and that is really progressive. Yeah.
That's what recently was either talked about or changed, was that the interactions between member agencies exchanging.
Right. So it's gone in two areas in the last year and a half-ish. One would be San Diego County Water Authority being able to sell their water using the Metropolitan system, essentially.
Oh, I see.
Eastern Municipal Water District and Western Municipal Water District taking advantage of that.
We're veering off a little bit here. Can we please bring it back to the topic, please?
Sure. So the schedule for these ambassador councils would be to get started fairly quickly if we want to have these community values inform evaluative criteria. Our next workshop with the study partners is in mid to late September. So we would want to kick the first one off before that. Have one after the September 23rd workshop to inform the ambassador councils of what happened there, what the evaluative criteria are going to look like, and provide additional specificity on which projects made it through the latest winnow. And then in the winter, the council will receive the first draft of the study ahead of circulation of the public review, so they could participate at that level. And then the fourth meeting would they be brief on the public input that we got on the draft, the public review draft, and then get feedback from them on how the process went, because this is not the only study that we are going to be doing coming out of the water resource implementation strategy. So is this model effective? Was it effective? Would it be useful to replicate in the future? How should we change it? So the idea paired with this is there has been board interest in receiving additional contributions from our study partners. As of today, Calleguas is funding the $825,000 study through its rates, minus the $100,000 EMA is contributing as their part of responsibilities as water master. So the proposal has been that study partners contributing what we're calling a leadership contribution of $25,000 would be invited to designate an elected official to participate in the Ambassadors Council. The board staff, Calleguas staff, anticipates that the Calleguas board would designate up to 2 directors as ambassadors. Those that limit on 2 is because of Brown Act. Because if you had more than 2, then we'd have to make those workshops public meetings. And a key takeaway that we've been stressing with the study partners that we've discussed this with to date is that the council is not going to decide where the desalter goes. The council is intended to help ensure that when the study identifies that location, that the region's politically prepared to act on it. So today, we want to present the concept to you all, get reactions from you all, and have you discuss the concept of designating directors sit on the council.
All right, thank you, Ian. I see a lot of good here. I also have some concerns, but I'll let the board go first. Director Pano?
No, it sounds like a great idea. And I see some potential for us to explore new opportunities and partnerships.
Robert?
I see a lot of opportunities for a lot of the things that we just discussed on the strategic plan. I think it was serendipitously or maybe intentionally convenient to have those things back to back. I'm excited to see where it goes, and I'm glad to see, I guess, driving it. I think we have the ability to be creative and successful. I think there's a lot of moving parts, and it's going to be an interesting journey and see where it lands.
Director Quady?
I just think the work done up to now is quite inspirational. So the care and thought that was sounds good.
Director Pacala?
Well, the work done to date is great because I've done a good job. At the end of the process, would we end up with one project? Is that one site, however you want, one concept? Or would that study identify these are the projects that may be pursued? What's the end goal here?
I think we would love it if the end goal is this is where you should build it, this is how much it's going to cost, and everyone's very happy with it. We realize that may be overly optimistic. And if the study and the value of criteria and the discussions that we have coming out of that in the review draft, if it looks like two projects are better than one for whatever reason, we're not married to the idea. We're not saying it has to be one project and we have to know exactly what the answer is going to be.
Okay. My thought is when I looked at the plan, as you know, there are 5 or 6 groundwater basins within the study area. If you account for Simi Valley to all the way down to Thousand Oaks and Camrose Water District and Las Posas Valley and Pleasant Valley Basin.
The study doesn't extend to the Pleasant Valley Basin.
I thought Camarillo project is part of this.
So in terms of source water, we wouldn't be taking source water out of the Pleasant Valley Basin, but one of the options on the table is expanding capacity of the North Pleasant Valley Basin desalter, the North Pleasant Valley desalter, which is Camarillo, is located in the Pleasant Valley.
That's what I mean.
Source water.
Pleasant Valley Basin.
Yes, but it wouldn't be the source of the water.
Source of the water is not, but I'm talking about so many basins, groundwater basins are there. It appears to me there could be 1 or 2 or 3 concepts that may be part of the study. Where I'm concerned about is if we were saying we are shooting for one project. If that's the goal, I have concerns about it. Now, I have a specific question. When you are going through the criteria, how to rate the projects in the next iteration, whatever step 3, whatever step you call, there are 6 or 7 metrics that you identified: quantity, cost, per acre foot. How you rank the projects or the sites. You have some metrics developed, right? Which includes, if I remember, permits, it includes 6 different metrics. Know what I'm referring to?
Yes.
One of the metrics says cost per acre foot. So when you come up with the cost per acre foot, would that cost per acre foot include extending SMP to that site as in your analysis?
So we're absolutely including, if the SMP needs to be extended, what the costs of that are going to be. And when we are looking at a single number, it will be wrapped up. The one way to look at it is wrapping all of the costs up and dividing it all by the acre feet. So there can be one cost per acre foot number, but the line item, so to speak, will be broken down so that we understand what.
We're actually discussing exactly how best to allocate that cost so that it's fairly considered because it's a
question.
real cost, but there has been a concern expressed that it unfairly disadvantages projects that aren't already served by the SMP. So we actually had an extensive discussion on Tuesday with the consultant, maybe it was last week, with the consultant team on how to handle this. And we're looking at options for how we can balance the reality of those costs with how to fairly consider them in the evaluative process.
My comments are, when you look at costs, including what's the actual cost for the desalter itself and extending the SMP, that's great, but it's not fair because we already have 3 or 4 desalters that Calleguas has extended desalters. If you are going to add this cost to that particular project, whether it's Simi Valley, whether there's only 2 projects, Simi Valley and Pool Park, that cost will be higher, then they won't be ranked. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I've shared your concern with the consultant team and we're talking about how we can address that issue.
Right. And on the top of that, as we stand here today, current policy of Calleguas is that we extend SMPs to desalters. That has been consistent in the past, the way the general managers have informed the purveyors. And also, we are extending lines to private businesses. We are extending lines to outside agencies. So all these decisions have not been made by the board. What the future policy of SMPs that's down the line. So I just want to be cognizant about all these issues. I don't want that impact ranking of the projects. That's my comment.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I agree, Director Pacala, you raised some of the concerns I have. To add on top of that, the only other real concern that I have is the $25,000 fee for participation. I think we should encourage max participation. I don't believe that we necessarily should include a $25,000 fee to participate. We're already contributing a pretty large amount from our district. And I don't think it helps. I think if we want participation, we want advocacy. These projects necessarily aren't directly going to be built by these participating members. This potential project will likely be built by Calleguas. We don't know yet. But if I'm investing money in a, let's say, metropolitan project that's going to be built in Long Beach, Pier project, and it's not directly going to affect me immediately. That might not be the best. We might be able to get that water at some point. I don't know that I would want to spend the money to join in. So just a thought.
So as far as Ambassador Council, it's a great idea to bring the leaders together or the elected officials together to bring the consensus. My questions are, depending on where the site is, whatever the final regional desalter location is, wouldn't the stakeholders change?
Yeah. It's
Quite possible, yes.
Northern.
Calleguas would be part of it if it's a regional, but other stakeholders will change, correct?
It's quite possible, yes,
Right.
depending on what the outcome is and then the level of interest and the structure.
Right.
All of that is, so the goal is the Ambassadors Council, at least as currently envisioned, would apply to the study part of the process. And then I think we'd have to reevaluate, depending on what we're moving forward with and who is planning to be a part of that.
Okay, but the way I understood is when I read it says, the Ambassador Council, their goal is the region is politically prepared to act on it.
Yeah.
The region is politically prepared. But if you are locating, we are talking about only 3 or 4 sites, right?
Yeah, Simi Valley, Thousand Oaks.
The stakeholders in Camarosa area is different than stakeholders in Las Cruces Valley. So those are the people that would be influencing these processes, right?
Yeah, and I guess that's a good point, right? There's certain cities, certain areas that are going to participate, other areas that really aren't going to be directly affected.
Right.
If we want to help push for political preparedness to act on it, we probably want stakeholders involved from those regions.
Right.
And not necessarily have them pay. It's, we're saying we're going to build a desalter in the northern parts of Calleguas
Right.
service area. we would like your leadership to participate. I think that would be the better approach in that region.
So no, I appreciate the input. At this, one of the things that we're focusing on during this study is not who would build, own, or operate the plant. So we don't know today that it'll be a Calleguas plant and Calleguas will be building it. And the idea is to be as agnostic and objective as possible and to have.
That's a concern because we're spending all this money. And the original intent of this, and I really, and this is part of the reason I brought the strategic plan up, because I felt like we were veering off of what the original intent from when I brought up that we needed to do a strategic plan back in 2020 was that Calleguas needed to diversify supply. So now we're spending all this money for a project that's potentially going to be built by somebody else. That wasn't the original intent of the strategic plan. And that's the reason I brought the strategic plan back up, was because I wanted to define and have clear objectives for the future so that we aren't having gray areas. So we understand what the board wants and what the region needs.
Well, as far as what board wants and region needs, we know, I'm sorry, Mr. President, to interrupt. So we know we want to develop local water supply. That's given, right? And then as far as who builds it, to me, if a purveyor wants to build, if they want to get the permits, if they want to get all the EIR due, purveyor should be able to do it.
Absolutely.
In those areas, if they're not willing to do it, Calleguas, the board approves, should build it. That's my perspective.
Absolutely. The purveyor should be able to build whatever they want.
Exactly.
We're investing the money in the studies. We're investing the money, in the strategic plan development.
Right.
Our strategic plan has called for diversification of supplies. This should lead to diversification of supplies for Calleguas, not, an additional resource for a purveyor that's going to, one, possibly reduce overall resiliency for our service area, because now we're not building that additional supply that benefits everybody. That's, splits the cost amongst the service area. We're saying here's a slew of projects you can build, and that's great. They should build one, but we should be looking at something we can build as well.
I guess it comes down to how it's organized, how allocations or involvements or costs, and at the end, kind of what the net benefit is. I think it's young to say we build it, they build it. They'll have more advantage than us and vice versa. I think at the end of the day, if there is a location that is in a privileged area and they want to build it and they say, but we're going to get most of the water and you don't get much, that takes away from the benefit of that specific idea. So I think if, we're spending the cost for the desalter study or a new resource study, and the end goal is the net benefit to the district. If we evaluate all the possibilities, then the net benefit is the driver. Generally, that's getting water for the minimum cost per acre foot. But it may also tip the scales a little bit to maybe we don't get as good of a deal, but there's a ton more water over here, that kind of thing. So I think I have faith in the process, but I do think those points are important to keep in mind as it develops.
So if I can try to summarize the input we're getting from the board today to make sure I understand where we're going with this.
Sorry.
Oh, no,
I don't know if I was giving input on this.
I interpret when the board is talking as providing input. The board is supportive of the study, supportive of the concept of involving the appropriate electeds or executive staff or IOUs at this stage in the process. It seems like perhaps there isn't the appetite to require a financial contribution to be a part of this, and that all the study partners should have the opportunity to participate regardless.
That was my perspective. I didn't hear that from anybody on the board.
I thought the way I read it, it's a voluntary, you're not required. The way I read it is, it's a voluntary, if you pay, you get to be in this. That's what it comes in, right? Is that what the proposal is?
That is what the
That's the proposal.
Yeah, I'm saying, what happens if they say, no, I don't want to pay?
Yeah.
It's a voluntary.
But I actually think that this is something that would be a good topic, keep the purveyors apprised of. I don't know about excluding people at this, that's not what we're doing at this stage of the game. They're still in process, and like you said, there's 70% work still to do. So I'm interested in seeing that. And as far as the money participation, I still think all eyes, but I think it's great that you have a collective participation right now that can hammer this out, and then it could be subject to review by our service area. This is a regional collaboration. It's a regional study. And if you're not going to be able to successfully get a regional study done, you know, if you're going to just say, well, no, we only want something that so-and-so builds and that has to be the way it is. That's not what we're doing, at least not yet.
Yeah.
So I want to see this, I want to see the full movie.
So I look at Calleguas as a planning agency for our service area because individual purveyors cannot take responsibility. When you look at the overall planning for the county, you have a planning department, they look at different things. We, within our Calleguas service area, potable water planning. So what we are doing is we are trying to bring all these people together, which we have done, and they're all participating. There are going to be certain projects coming up to the top of, based on the criteria established, 2, 3, whatever the projects are. Those projects are here. Then at that time, we can talk about who's going to build, where it's going to be built, who's going to operate, maintain at that time. But I completely support the process with the comments I made about equality for cost per acre foot cost comment I made about. It has to be fair with the other disorders we built. I support it. And if it's voluntary, if they pay for it, they pay. If they don't, they don't. Right?
Yeah, and going back to the cost, you know, a lot of the cities run on a very tight budget. You know, they've probably already done their budgets by this point, and asking them to contribute, you know, $25,000. Who knows if they're gonna be willing or have that availability at this point for our schedule.
Yeah, I was wondering, where did that number come from? Because it's really weighing the benefit of involvement versus the benefit of those dollars towards the progression of that process. And so kind of going back to what I think Director Quadio was talking about is, what's the benefit at this moment? Do we need more people to rally behind us, or do we need money to advance the process? I'm sure you've done analysis to some point on that front, but I think that may change as we move, right? If we get more people behind us and more people want to, and we need more money to do more studies, and we can start changing, and maybe that's an initial cost that's lower and it changes as the landscape changes. Something to think about kind of as we go forward, to evaluate what our current needs are for participation or financially or
you know,
vocally.
To your point, you know, we're made up of purveyors. All of our rates are pass-through rates. We're already getting that funding from our purveyors through our rates, you know, so inviting them to be involved is.
If the board is comfortable with Calleguas bearing the entirety of the cost minus the GMA contribution, I think we're comfortable moving forward without that as a requirement for participation.
It's interesting. It's an interesting concept because the benefit to the district will be distributed to the purveyors in the way that they're already structured to be involved.
And exactly my point as to, you know, if Calleguas builds this, you know, everyone's already paying through our rates and everybody benefits. Yeah.
Okay, so I think what I'm hearing from the board is to do away with the $25,000 requirement, invite all of the study group partners to participate, and that would leave today's remaining discussion to be which board members from our board will be participating.
Showing out my laptop.
I'm all that comfortable with that because It seems to me that you've identified a good diverse sampling of the purveyors at this point. And I'd hate to see it get lost in a massive committee as opposed to what you've got as a focus group of agencies right now.
Oh, it would just be, so the study group partners it would only be the study group partners who would participate in this. The ones who've already chosen to participate. We invited all of the purveyors to participate in the study. The study group partners plus the GMA elected to. The ambassadors council will be comprised only of representatives from those study group partners, the 9 agencies in total, including us and the GMA.
Okay.
It would be a parallel process. So those elected officials, the ambassadors council wouldn't participate in the workshops that we've had. They would participate in parallel meetings that would help inform those workshops.
So with that being said, with many of the projects being in Simi Valley, I think the majority of them, I'd like to be on council.
I would recommend that.
I would like to be on the council too.
A lot of them are in more Park and Thousand Oaks, so.
I'm just gonna make an observation that, this has been a driving intent from President Avila for a long time. So I would support President Avila being on the council, and if anything, for Director Pacala's how do I say this? Very detailed and broad questions and recommendations. I think it's I would support.
I think Director Bacala and myself balance each other.
No. I always up there scaling, looking at right now.
Opinions.
Going sad.
Opinions. We balance opinions.
Yeah, opinions.
We might not always agree, but we always have a good relationship.
Good discussions.
Yeah.
If that is the board selection, then we can wrap this up. It's not an action item because it's not part of the admin code. If there's consensus on the board, then that's what we will proceed with.
Thank you, Ian, and thanks,
Ian.
Thank you, Ian. And appreciate, right, a lot of work went into this so far.
Sure.
Yeah, we
Bringing all the people together.
And I hope you admired the new logo we have for the study on the first slide. It's in your packet too on the brochure,
And,
which we will be updating based on input.
we're running a pretty good record here on longest meeting in a while. So with that being said, July 2026 water use and sales.
Home stretch.
Dan Smith.
So since we are going on, I'll just keep this short. This is the first month of fiscal year. We're looking good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and with that, water quality and consumer confidence.
Honestly, so in July, we sold 8,015 acre feet. We had budgeted to sell 8,000. So
That's the closest.
we are right on budget for the first month of the fiscal year, which is good. So we are on pace for that 73,500. We did lower it this year due to the potential for El Nino affecting the sales in the upcoming fiscal year. So again, the first one only has the 1 month to show you, but you can also see like last 12 months, we had a lot of rain in March and April last year, which really did help us catch up to our projected sales last year. And if we have El Nino this year, there's a potential that it's not going to happen. So the lower sales number does make sense looking at that. Kind of going over the Metropolitan invoice, which is something that's kind of a little different this time. So we did have $12.2 million in water sales. We put some water into Lake Bard over the last month. And then we have the reconciliation to get the total water purchase from Metropolitan of $12,500,000. We have the RTS, the CRC and the RTS and the LRP funds, which are pretty normal. The one thing that's new on this for the next 6 months, you're going to see the reverse cyclic storage program. That prepaid water, we are getting 2,111 acre feet of that water is going to be already prepaid. So they're deducting it on a monthly basis. So that's $3 million, $3.2 million that's going to be coming out of our bills every month as we take off that prepaid water. So now the bill is only $10,200,000 instead of the close to $13 million that we were going to be paying. SMP, we did good in the month of July as well. We had 89, almost 90 acre feet of discharge. We had budgeted 73, so we are starting off that one is good as well. The hydropower, this one's actually finishing off for June for last fiscal year. We got all the bill or the money in. We had 94,779, so we were above what we had budgeted, anticipated for June. bringing our total over $657,000. So we exceeded the $600,000 budget we had for last fiscal year. So there was a little bit extra there for us. So looking at the overall revenues, this is only the 1 month, but again, you can see that all of our percentages of budget are higher than what we historical totals. So we are doing good on all of the categories at this time, including recycled water again. So we're continuing to sell what we expected or a little bit more. Cash and investments. This is the last one, my last slide here. You can see that overall we had a decrease of almost $11 million. $10.5 million of it was our bond payments that went out July 1st. So that was expected. The other one, when we're looking at the change in cash, about $1.3 million. July, there comes a lot of new bills with the new fiscal year. The main one that hits us is the liability that we have to pay to CalPERS. At the beginning of the year, we pay it all at once because we do save like 7%. They charge 7% for every, if they have to do it monthly. So you're actually saving money that way. And that was over $1 million, like 1.1, something around that time. So that's the reason that that's such a big cash draw during the month of July. With that, that was the really quick version, but it is all I have.
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Good with Dan. All right, with that, water quality and consumer confidence report highlights Amy Mueller.
Thank you, Amy, for joining us tonight and for being very patient.
Yeah, no problem. I could say we are doing well in water quality and be done as well. No more than that. Keep it rolling. Yeah, so I'm happy to share some highlights from this year's report. For this year's consumer confidence report, it highlights all the data that we collected in 2025. This year, we actually used a new designer. We used LA Design Studio. They're the consultants that designed our website. So there might be a little bit of might see a little similarities there. And we're really happy with how the plan and report turned out. And really, it's important with the message that it sends to our customers. So the work for the report begins once we collect our last sample of the previous year. So this, for example, this 2025 in December, once we collect that one, we start compiling all of our data, reviewing it several times. We're looking at our Lake Bard water filtration plant data and all of our well field data. And we put those into tables and then we wait for MET because we're in a unique position. Since Metropolitan and Calleguas are both wholesalers, we both are required to send the water quality data to our purveyors, our member agencies by April 1st. And so a few days before April 1st, we get their data, we review it, we ask our questions, we put it into tables, and then we send it to our purveyors, who then in turn use that to prepare their consumer confidence reports. And then we take the next few weeks to actually put the data into regulatory formats and abbreviate the tables so they can actually use it in their CCR with all of just the detections that are required to be shared. And then the next few months, we're actually preparing our consumer confidence report. So it gets out to our purveyors by July 1st. And this year is the first year we've actually we've not printed any out. It's all electronic. Well, I think I did it, Wes. I did it too. So you told me not to do it and I did it. Okay. So during the year, we're tracking regulations, making sure that we're collecting the right samples at the right time at the right locations. We're also collaborating with regulatory agencies and labs to ensure proper analysis is occurring. And we do all this while watching regulations, new regulations materialize. And we continue to maintain ELAB certification for our lab at Calleguas, and we're reviewing all the subcontracted laboratory data. And the CCR is a process. We support purveyors as questions arise about their reports, about our data, about MET's data, and all this culminates in providing reliable information to consumers. And this slide is a picture of one of our tables from our report this year. And I've been asked, I know, where's the PFAS data? Well, we did actually collect all of our PFAS data in 2025, but they were non-detect, so we didn't have to put them in the table. So that's good news. Okay, and a new addition this year to the CCR is adding the concept of the multi-barrier approach. We think it's important for customers and the public to understand that there are many levels of protection that we use to make sure that the water is safe and reliable. And the categories that we shared this year were source water protection, treatment and storage, distribution system, and water testing. And outlining this also allows us to showcase the work of different divisions than I think you just normally think of, like the laboratory, but cross connections is important, water resources. All of this is essential for providing the safe water that we do. And I might have mentioned this last year when I gave an update on the last year's report, but in 2027, the CCR the regulations are going to change. The big change is that we're going to have to produce 2 every year. So we're working with Metropolitan, our purveyors, to see how that's going to unfold for next year. And additional changes include just accessibility and clarity requirements. And then lastly, I list myself in the report, contact information, so people actually can reach out to a real person and ask questions, get their questions answered. Some purveyors include this, our Calleguas' information in their report, or they do theirs and ours, or some just do theirs. We're happy to do whatever works for them and then to discuss water quality with anyone that has questions. So it works out well. And I'm done.
And were you the contact person in the last year's CCR?
I was, yeah.
How many calls did you get from purveyors or customers?
From customers or purveyors? Because it's both. I would say we get
approximately. I'm not asking.
Yeah, I would say maybe like during the year or just during this process, I think we probably hear from like 4 or 5 purveyors consistently. Some of it's like, when are we going to get our report? Like, it's April. But some of it's actually like looking through the data. So I'd say, yeah, 4 or 5 purveyors. And probably, once the report comes out, maybe I get 10 calls from the public, or we get calls from a purveyor with a question that we need to follow up with Metropolitan and look at our data ourselves. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm glad you're the contact person. You're the experts.
Yeah, well, it's fun. It's fun to talk to the public. It's also fun to talk to the purveyors who are experts themselves too. So yeah, get both.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, guys. Sure.
Nice report. Right, and lastly, Henry's very, very good.
He's done.
Breathe. Yes, Christine warned me that your attention may have been taxed by heavy lifting you were going to have to be doing. So I'll keep this brief.
I'm going to request that next time we put you at the front of the agenda package.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep it brief there too. So all of this information, you're going to receive more details in the monthly status report. So I'll be very brief here. I have 3 items I would like to update you on Metropolitan. Director Pacala and I were down at Met on Monday and Tuesday of this week. And there are 3 things that I think might be of interest to you. One is that this is the time of year when Metropolitan sets its voting percentage basis. As you know, Metropolitan votes on a weighted vote based on the assessed valuation. And good news, bad news is that not much changed. I think the highest change was a 0.007% increase by Orange County, MODOC. Calleguas unfortunately went down by 0.03%, which reduces our previous 3.34% weighted vote down to 3.31. I don't think it's going to make a big difference on any at Metropolitan. So that continues along that way. The second issue I'd like to bring up is Camp for Water. Metropolitan is really kind of like trimming the sails on camp and trying to find a way to make it more effective for the board's decision-making process. And to that end, Christine and Ian and I met with a group we call the Camp Counselors. There are 3 Metropolitan staff who are going to all the member agencies and talking about our views on Metropolitan's camp process. At the board meeting, there was a discussion and information item on kind of incorporating camp into the admin code. There was much discussion, a lot of heat, a little light. And I think that it'll probably just be set aside until they get better definition on the camp process overall. And then finally, Colorado River.
as you have watched this and watched the fact that there's been no consensus among the states in terms of an operating plan, that continues to play out. So there was no consensus. The federal government issued its EIS, its equivalent to an environmental analysis. And that has set up a framework for a 10-year framework with 2-year increments. What that actually means is almost continual negotiation. So part of what the basin states had hoped for was a 10-year operating plan as they had before that would give them some way of looking forward. Unfortunately, climate change and hydrology is not cooperating. Both Lake Powell and Lake Mead are at their historic low levels since the filling of it. So this project that was built 90 years ago, is now back to some of the levels that it was actually filling up at. So where does it go from here? The environmental analysis that the Bureau of Reclamation conducts is really just one stage of a series of actions. There's a thing called a record of decision that is based on that analysis. And then coming out of that, there'll be an operating plan. Metropolitan has some storage in Lake Mead. That is going to be available for the next year if the projections hold out for the elevation. But in future years, it's kind of a wait and see. As I said, there'll be more details in the monthly status report, and that concludes my presentation. I don't know if Director Bacala has anything they wants to add.
Well, at the Metropolitan Board, we're all concerned about uncertainty about the Colorado River issue. The good news is, though, at least for next 2 years, we are in good shape, mainly because we have all the reservoirs are full, and also we have other water that Metropolitan has secured through farmers or banking. We are in pretty good shape, but uncertainty is the one which bothers us a lot. We have to figure out where we go from here, where feds, the way they act on this, in the last minute, they send you the agreements. Within few hours, you have to respond. The person who negotiates this, they are so much, they work so hard and they keep us updated as the things are happening. It's a very difficult situation, but the hydrology is helping us for now. Good.
And I do have a concern. They're looking at all these huge capital projects, pure water, DCP, and sites. On the high end of those projects, they all total for Met's portion about 25.2 billion. But the Colorado River Aqueduct is falling apart. It only has a lifespan now of 10 years.
Exactly.
And that's a $47 billion project. My question becomes, if things keep going down the Colorado River, do we need to build back up to a 9 pumps capacity?
Yeah.
Maybe we need to look at a 6 pump. Do we really need to spend that much? Because are we going to get the capacity? So
Yeah, that's a good question.
I just ask you to kind of keep that in mind.
Sure.
Thank you.
I'm on the engineering committee now, so.
I know, I watched you.
Yeah, good reason to put for, those Colorado River
Yeah.
area dependent areas to really invest in infrastructure outside of that area, so that areas outside of the Colorado River dependent areas are less dependent.
Yeah.
California.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Henry. Do we have a general counsel report?
No, sir.
Great. Board of Directors report. We have not had any meetings.
Correct.
Up next, we have Director's list of admin code reimbursable meetings. Director.
But just very quickly, I watched the Met meetings on the 17th and the 18th via Zoom, and then tonight's board meeting.
Director Robert.
Oxnard on the 10th, Oxnard City Council meeting on the 10th, Fort Wayne City Council meeting on the 7th, Politan Board of Directors on the 18th, and tonight's board.
Thank you, Director Robert. Director Pacala.
Since the last board meeting on August 5th, I attended August 13th Metropolitan North Caucus meeting by Zoom. August 13th, Waterworks District 1 Advisory Committee meeting in Moorpark. August 17th, Metropolitan Water District Committee meetings in LA. August 18th, Metropolitan Committee / board meeting in LA, and today's board meeting.
Thank you, Director Pacala. Director Paredes.
August 17th, attended the Delta Independent Science Board meeting, and on the 19th, tonight, board's meeting.
Thank you, Director Quinn. For myself, since the last board meeting on the 10th, General Manager and I had a meeting with Thousand Oaks. It was a very good, productive meeting. On the had several calls throughout the day with GM, our council, and Kai in regards to LAFCO and planning and strategy. On the 14th, I attended the Simi Valley Chamber Member Monthly. On the 17th, we had the Calleguas, the California Utilities Emergency Association
Yes.
tour with
California Emergency Utilities Association.
that one. We had Dana here from that organization. We had the Director of Human Health and Services.
Ventura County Department of Public Health.
That one. We had our EMS team and we had our emergency operator from the sheriff's. It was a good tour, good productive meeting, lots of good information. It was really good to have stakeholders in the room for planning for emergency preparedness. Also, on the 18th, yesterday, I had a meeting with our GM and tonight's board meeting. Okay, and with that, we have a discussion regarding upcoming meetings to be attended by the board.
Can I highlight a few things?
Yes, please.
The board is apparently traveling quite a bit over the next few weeks. 4 out of the 5 of you are going to be gone for days to 3 weeks. So we would not have a quorum for the September 2nd board meeting, so we are not having one. Because of the challenges of scheduling, the way it has landed is we're going to have a board meeting on the 16th, preceded immediately by the PFA meeting, Public Financing Authority meeting. And then we will have a board meeting on the 23rd, which is, I guess, the 4th Wednesday of the month. That will be at 5 p.m., not 4, because this room is occupied. And that is probably when we'll get to your capital construction charge discussion that you've requested. So I'm trying to balance the agendas for those 2 meetings just because there's going to be a long gap between now and the next board meeting. And then, of course, the retreat will follow fairly quickly after that. So also just a reminder that if you are going to be gone and missing board meetings, please be sure to let me and Karen know, just so we have plenty of warning if we're not going to be able to make quorum. You live very busy lives, and we have to have 3 people in the room to have a meeting. Walt says so.
Brown access.
The Brown Act says so. Well, it's just the Brown Act monitor.
So next sash guy, that's not bad.
So I'm not sure that I have I'll be able to make the 23rd, but I may be able to do it by Zoom. I think I'm.
Okay, yeah, if you plan to participate remotely and you just, good news, we don't need you for quorum. We've got the rest of the board members. Let Karen know and we'll, we do need you. I'm just saying that you can participate remotely, but when you participate remotely, it doesn't count for quorum. So like, if you want to participate from a remote address that's publicly noticed, let Karen know and she will include that in the board packet.
Okay.
Another discussion with upcoming meetings, Director Pacala?
Yes, I plan to attend August 20th VCERA board meeting in Ventura. August 24th MWD. Oh, it's no longer happening. In Camarillo, we were going to meet, but Christian told me that's not happening. August 25th, Metropolitan Water District Committee meeting in LA. Only 2 meetings.
Thank you. And if there are no other meetings, do we have a request for future agenda items? All right, any board member comments? Item 10.
Can I also interject something in this one, please?
Sure.
Just to give the board a heads up, we are going to be recarpeting the offices, many of the offices back there. So if you see staff packing things up in boxes, they're not leaving, they're just packing up their stuff so we can do the recarpeting. And it does mean for a week in September, much of the staff will be working remotely while that work is being done.
They know they're not allowed.
Some people have decided that they're going to retire. They didn't get the memo.
All right. Item 10, any board member comments? All right, item 11 is informational items. There's one item, floor alert, support for AB 1894 Rubio, and that's in the packet. We don't have a need for closed session, and thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.